Hey, listeners of the Bows Knows, sorry for the hiatus in Season 3 podcasts. Between the two hurricanes that hit Florida and my school, QI Roberts homecoming, we got a little bit busy and got a little bit behind on the editing and recording of podcasts, but we should be back to normal. We've got some special guests coming up, so I hope you enjoy this week, another episode interview with a Florida Teacher of the Year for 2025, and then we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming. Listening to Season 3 of The Bows Knows, the podcast where we will talk to students, teachers, staff, administrators, and more to share their stories from the world of education. I'm your host, Mr. Bows, and I hope you enjoy this podcast. So today we have another podcast in the series where I talk to all of the amazing 74 teachers from the 2025 Teacher of the Year cohort. And so I have one of those very special guests in studio with me. So thank you for joining me, and introduce yourselves to our listeners.
Sure. Hi, my name is Maria Rose. I teach first grade at Edison Park Elementary in Lee County, and I am the 2025 Lee County Teacher of the Year.
Wonderful. So thanks for joining me after a busy school day, especially with little ones.
Sure.
My son is actually in kindergarten this year. So.
Oh, fun. Very fun.
So to start out with, what is your favorite school story or tradition?
Well, I am very blessed to work at an arts school. So at our school, I've been at my school for 31 years. So I was very honored to intern at Edison Park, and then I got my job there and fell in love and have been here ever since. So I've only ever taught at Edison Park, so that's really fun. But it is a really awesome art school, and we have a plethora of arts for the students to be engaged in. So we have art and dance and theater, violin, music, and they get to put on theater productions and dance recitals and all kinds of amazing, wonderful things that not every elementary student gets to experience. And I had a dance background as a young adult and child all the way from the time I was 2. So when I got to Edison Park and I learned that the students got to go to a dance class, I was just thrilled. And we started as a fundraiser. We started a teacher talent show. So we get to perform doing all of the various things that the children do on the amazing stage in the theater that Thomas Edison actually sat in way back in the day. Our school's almost 100 years old, and his winter home is right around the corner from our school. So the teacher talent show for me is the just really, really fun time of the year. At the end of the year, we get to showcase some of the things that we can do, and we have fun as well. And the kids absolutely love it. And it's a time for the families and the students and the teachers to just have a lot of really good fun together.
That's awesome. I always love having fun with the kids. We're getting ready for our homecoming Spirit Week and pep rally. Right now. So the excitement's starting to build. So if you could have a superpower, which one would it be and why?
This is always difficult for me to answer because I'm just so thrilled I already feel like as teachers, we already have superpowers and for me, being a first grade teacher, I get to teach children to read. So I can't imagine any greater gift for a child. And that to me is a superpower because if you can read, you can do anything. But if I had to pick something, I was thinking that I probably would like to be able to fly because I do have family and friends who live out of town and far away, and driving in the car is not very fun. So if I could fly right to their house to visit, that would be perfect.
That is a popular trend with this question this season is any superpower that helps people save time traveling.
Yes, definitely.
All right, so let's kind of dive in a little bit to being your county's finalist for Teacher of the Year. What did that mean to you?
Well, it was an amazing process. I was nominated by a colleague, and you go through the application process, and each step of the way, you had to add something else. And congratulations, you've made it this far. Now you have to add this. And I got to the process where there was going to be an interview, and I was so nervous, excited but nervous. And so I think it was down to 3 finalists, and they interviewed us. And then I received an email that said, congratulations, you moved on to the final stage. And they had told me they were going to come in and observe me teaching, which I thought was wonderful, because I was thinking, well, how can they pick a teacher who is really good at what she does without watching them teach? So I was absolutely so excited. And the kids were excited. I was excited. We were ready. And in walks our superintendent with balloons and flowers with all of our school board. And so they were not coming to do an observation. They were coming to tell me that I had been selected as the Teacher of the Year. So it was a shock and an honor. And the kids and I were just so, so thrilled. And we ended up I said, I was ready for an observation. So we ended up doing a little bit of our lesson that I had prepared for them, because the kids were so ready to show off what they could do. So we were excited, but it was thrilling. It was a long process, but very thrilling.
That's awesome that you got that surprise. That's fun.
Yeah, it was neat. And my husband, my principal called my husband the night before. I didn't know. So I was freaking about what I was going to wear, and oh my gosh, I'm not ready. And he was trying to calm me down and help me pick out an outfit, all while knowing that they were coming to tell me the next day that I had won.
Oh, wow.
So
that's cool.
That was really, really cool. Yeah. It was the best to have him there. It was really neat.
That's awesome. Yeah. Putnam County does like a big dinner with all of the school's finalists, and that's where they announce.
Wow.
And that was it was cool because I was there with my wife and my principal, and know, but they read a bit of one of the essays that I submitted before they announced who it was. So they started reading, and I'm like, that's mine.
Like me.
That's mine. Like, you already started that process of like, I just won.
Right. It is just thrilling. And then then they handed me, the envelope with all of the next steps for the Florida Teacher of the Year, and the liaison from Lee County shook my hand and she said, "Hi, it's so great to meet you. Congratulations. Tomorrow I'll email you with all of the next steps and things that we have to do." And I was like, "What?" I thought I was done. I didn't know if there was another process. And I kind of said, "I feel like this is like the Miss USA now moving on to Miss America." It's a whole nother process that
right.
I didn't know anything about. So
yeah, it was like, congratulations on the hard work. Here's a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Here's a little bit more. You have to do some videos and of you teaching, and you know how it is, and all the different things and all the essays and whatnot. So it was quite another process, thrilling, but a lot of work. And then just so honored to get to go to Orlando and meet you and all of the other amazing 74 teachers that we get to be with and now get to spend, this year celebrating and supporting each other. It's really, really going to be a fun year.
Yeah, absolutely. I love getting together with teachers that are really passionate about what they do, and love teaching, love the kids. We all have our rough days where we're like, do I have to come back to work tomorrow? Can I take tomorrow off? But but it's just amazing to share, and that's part of why I'm doing this, is just to share the stories, because they're just so amazing to hear from people.
Yeah.
So,
and you're right. That's the first thing I say, is that spending the time with teachers who love what they do and are still real positive about education are the best teachers to hang out with. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of stories, do you have a creative or unconventional lesson that you taught that either went over really well with your students, or is, your story of never doing that again?
Right. Well, I do have two. One that was really great, and one that, oh gosh, when I was interning, my lesson was I had to take over the lesson, and I had to teach by myself to the kids, and I was so nervous. And my lesson was ordinal numbers. So I thought, I'm going to do this amazing lesson where we're going to build towers, and we're going to count first, second, third, fourth, and we're going to learn ordinal numbers. And I turned around. It's one of those things that you learn as a teacher. what to say. These are all the things you're going to do with the manipulatives, and these are all the things that I really would like for you not to do with the manipulatives. And so I turned around, and their task was to build towers, but I had two kids standing on top of the desk building a huge tower. It was a very impressive tower. However, they were not being very safe. So I realized now, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go through all the things we can and cannot do with manipulatives before we begin. So I still remember that to this day, and that was 32 years ago. So that was one that I was like, ooh, let's not do that ever again.
Was that with younger really kids too?
It was first graders. Yep, first graders. They took it literally, like, let's build the highest tower we can build. Let me stand on this desk. Yep, it was little pumpkins standing on top of the desk. And I thought, oh gosh, my supervising teachers, that's it, I'm fired, I'm done, I'm going to be kicked out. But she was super sweet and was like, this is a learning, use this as a learning experience. So you better believe every time before I pass out manipulatives to my students, I go through what we should and should not be doing with them for sure. One of the really awesome things that I think that my kids and I really enjoyed, after we had, unfortunately, 2 years ago, we had a devastating hurricane in this area, and on Fort Myers Beach and Sanibel, we had 18 to 20 feet of water that came on shore. So most of the homes were either destroyed or flooded, and we had a lot of damage in our area. We were just devastated in Lee County. And we, of course, were out of school for quite a while. And when we finally returned, I had children who had lost their homes, children who had lost everything they owned, kids who were worried about library books and that had gotten wet and floated away, and I'm like, don't worry, it's totally fine. So I incorporated, we had they were little eraser pets, basically. And what I did was I had each of the students adopt a pet of their choosing. And I had these little, from way back in the day, remember when you used to put like a penny in a gumball machine and there used to be plastic containers that had toys inside?
Yeah.
They had, I got those, and they each had, that was like their little habitat, and they each had their deaf pet, and that they had adopted inside one of those. And so those stayed on our desk for quite a while, and it just sort of gave us all a little bit of comfort. We had a little fun creature with us that, because they were missing their families, they had been home. It was just a lot for all of us to come back to. Luckily, our school had very minimal damage. We had some huge, beautiful, big banyan trees that actually had fallen. But beyond that, our actual school building and classrooms were all okay. And where I teach, there were some schools that were devastated, but ours was okay. So it just added a little bit of home, a little more home, a little bit more. We all got to love on each other and love on these little desk pets. But the kids really, really loved it. And they were on our desk for quite a while. And then I let the kids take them home. But that was a good way, I think, for us to come back and just kind of spend some time together and do some things that were maybe not so academic yet, but we knew that we were going to be okay, and we were going to be together, and we were going to have some fun too. So I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it just kind of underscores, I think, the importance of school beyond the classroom. Like, there's so much belonging that students get, whether they're first graders, even up to my seniors, where it's just like, they might not want to be in school, but like school's the place where they can always count on certain things. So
yes, absolutely. They know that, they know what to expect. They know my kids, my little guys, they thrive on routine, so to have that, I think, is really, really important for them.
Yeah. So I'm curious, especially because you teach the little kids, and like, I kind of see it, I get a little bit with my son. Like, what's your favorite, like, aha or light bulb moment with the younger kids where you teach them something and you can like see it open up their whole world to new things?
Yeah, it has to be when they start to read, because it is as shocking sometimes to them as it is to me. I teach phonics, a very extensive phonics program. And so we're learning sounds of letters, and then we're learning how to put those sounds together to make words. And we have what we call a spelling notebook where we're writing words. And I also teach English language rules of spelling. So they learn all of these things, and they're starting to put them together. And then we do some leveled reading, where they're taking AR tests and things, and it's all on their level. So just kind of fostering that love for reading, even as a beginning reader, because it's very challenging learning to read. It's all there's all these rule breaker words and all these rules you have to follow. And this letter makes this sound sometimes, but sometimes it can be this letter. So it's just a lot for them. And when I'm sitting in my class, and it's happened every single year, and silent reading in first grade isn't silent. Everyone is reading out loud and sounding things out, and it's just a hoot, But when there is a student who really has had to sound out every single letter and sometimes still wasn't getting the words to put the sounds together to make the word, and then all of a sudden, it's the most amazing thing is to watch it just click for them. And they look at the words and they can just read. And it's just, I've said it probably 1,000 times now, but it's like when you're watching your child learn to walk and they stumble and they fall and they get up and they stumble and they fall and they hang on to things. And then all of a sudden they just go, and then they're running before you know it. And that is what it's like to teach and watch a child learn to read and then master reading, and then love of reading after that is the most magical gift that they give me every single year. It's really, really cool to witness.
I think that's great. I mean, like I said, watching my son do it is amazing. I can't imagine having an entire class where you get to watch that, with 20 kids every year. Yeah,
it's really cool.
Awesome. So let's see. This is kind of a twofold question. Okay. So what advice would you give, especially coming from someone like yourself who's been in education for so long, what advice would you give new teachers? I'll start with that question.
Okay. I would say, first and foremost, it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to know everything. A lot of times we come out of college and we think, look at me, I'm ready to go. And then there's a class full of children sitting in front of you. And it's a lot. Managing young children or even older children, it's very, very challenging and very difficult. And I always tell them too, if you can master the management of just the group of children, the teaching part kind of comes easier, the content part, but the management of the group is the most difficult, I think, for teaching. And for me, my principal, when I first started, she taught me to teach to the top and to set high expectations for everyone, regardless, but high expectations. You will meet this. Let's set a goal and let's do it. And that for me has really, really worked as far as class management goes, and as far as learning and keeping the peace in a room. There's been a lot of challenges recently with COVID, us going out of school and being at home, and sort of the expectations sort of lessened a little bit while the children were at home learning. And so to reel that all back in, the high expectations is huge. But on the second part, ask for help. It is okay that you don't know everything, and it's okay to ask. And also probably, it's okay, like my experience with the manipulatives, it's okay if you try something and it doesn't work. You can do it again, you can revamp and do it again, or, pitch that and start again. Start fresh. So every day is a new day with teaching.
Absolutely. My principal he and I have talked before where it's like all the things that teachers think are super stressful in the big scheme of things aren't that stressful. Like lesson goes bad. Oh, well, do it better tomorrow.
Yeah. We can start over tomorrow and we can go, okay, that didn't work. Let's try this. Yeah. But I have seen a class full, especially of the little guys, especially kindergarten, like you said, your child is in. I have seen some kindergarten students just take advantage of either a new teacher or a substitute teacher to the point where they are winning. And I'm always like, you can't let them win. We got to have control. So because kids, a group of little friends, boy, they can take over. So.
Yes, I have one on their own that can take over.
Oh, well, there you go. Yes, absolutely. Isn't that the truth? They always act different for their parents than they do for a teacher, though.
Yeah, my wife and I are always like, do we think he acts like this at school? And I was like, I don't think so. We would have gotten a phone call if he does.
No, I'm sure not. I've had parents say, how do you get him to do da-da-da? I'm like, what do you mean? They just do it. I say, please do, and they do it. So they're like, no, they don't do that at home. So it is definitely different with the parents.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the other side of that question is on the other side of the experience spectrum. So do you have any advice or something you would want to say to those experienced teachers who have their rough day that are thinking like, do I want to renew my contract? Do I want to come back next year?
I think in that case, which I try to do, you have to reflect. You have to sit back and reflect and sort of separate the positives from the negatives and look at, are you still making a difference in the life of a child? Because if you are, then what you're doing is valuable. And it is so valuable, especially, I really think it's even more valuable now because as we said, some of the children, we are their safe space. We are their person that listens and talks to and has time to spend with them. So I think, and there are times when I've had to reevaluate that for myself and thought, okay, what am I doing good? And what do I need to work on, or what? Let's talk about some positives. It's so easy to focus on negative, because there are so many challenges in education these days, but to focus on the positives and sort of, rejuvenate and maybe switch things up a little bit. And, for me, I like being in my pretty little first grade box. I've only taught first and second grade. Some people, they switch all the time. So maybe a switch would help. Maybe, if someone has been teaching a certain grade level for a long amount of time and they decide, maybe this isn't it for me, try something else. Try something else in education. I would say to them, like I say that to the new teachers, don't give up. You are making a difference. And even maybe you are supposed to be teaching other teachers. So maybe it's a year or two out of the classroom, and maybe you're supposed to be a coach or doing a resource position. There's so many different options we have in the education realm. So it doesn't have to be in a classroom standing in front of students. Maybe just switching it up a little bit would help too.
I think that's great. And I think for teachers, if they cultivate the relationships to where it doesn't have to be an all or nothing, it doesn't have to be, well, if you leave the classroom, you're never coming back to it kind of situation. If they can cultivate those relationships of like, hey, can I try this for a year or two, or I need a year or two break? And then, can we maybe talk about if there's an opening, can I come back kind of thing?
Right. And maybe there's something like my husband tells me with the reading program that I teach, he's like, you can't retire without sharing that with other people. They have to know what you're doing because it's working so beautifully. So again, training those new teachers on skills that you have that are working so well, share, because teachers are really good at sharing. We are always, we walk into someone else's room and we go, okay, let me look around. Oh, look at that, look at that, look at that. We're real good at stealing things from each other and sharing, so I think that could be really valuable for a veteran teacher also. Maybe they have some really cool things in their teacher toolbox that they can share with other people.
That's a great idea. I mean, I know the week that we spent together, I had so many ideas from different people, and some of them I've used, and some of them I have plans to use, going forward. So
yeah, definitely.
So, all right. So the last question I have is, of course, the big picture question. If you had a magic wand and could fix one thing about education, what would you choose to fix?
I think that it would be developing a renewed respect for the profession. It used to be if a child needed help or needed redirection, a parent would support that and would say, what are you doing to the child? And work with the child and maybe changing some behaviors or whatnot. And I think we've gotten away from that, and the blame now has been put on the educators more often than not. And I think it is, we need to respect the absolute profession of being a teacher, an educator. We really hone in and try to better ourselves in our craft every day, every year, like with the process that you and I just went through, meeting and learning from others and what we're going to go through for this Florida Teacher Lead. We are always looking to make ourselves better. And I'm not really sure that our communities and our society is really seeing that anymore. It used to be being able, when I used to say I'm a teacher, I would get, oh, wow, that's really awesome. And oh my gosh, that must be so fun, whatever. And now what do we hear a lot of, oh gosh, I couldn't do that. I don't know how you do that, So the connotation is negative now towards the profession. And I really am hopeful that we can kind of change that. Like we said, we're spending a lot of time with really positive educators, which is great for us because we need to hear that. But the community needs to hear it and see it too. So I always tell anyone I see, parents, or if I'm talking to a group, if you are not really sure what's happening in a building, or you don't think you like what's going on with education, then I challenge you to go into a building, go into a school, go into a classroom, because you're always going to be welcome, especially in the lower grades for sure. Like I can always use someone to mentor and read with my children. They always can have one-on-one reading all the time. So I always say, come on in and take a look. at what's actually going on in buildings. And you're going to be surprised by what you see, that what the educators in the building are doing for these children. You know, there's a lot of skewed things out there in society that aren't really happening in schools. And so I challenge everyone, just come on in. If you have questions about it, go on in and see what's happening. And then you're probably going to change your mind, because the educators are working really hard and they're really trying to show lots of love to these kids, especially the ones that are the hardest to love. Those are the ones we pour our hearts out to.
Absolutely.
So come on in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think what you ended with there, like pouring your hearts out, I think that's something that is hard to really explain to non-educators. The idea that, like, even if you're the best teacher and you utilize your planning time and you don't show up till you have to, and you leave when you can leave, and you don't take anything home, like, you may not take anything physical home, but like if you're in the lower grades, you have 20 to 25 kids where you get to know like everything about them. And when you're teaching the upper grades, you've got 125 kids that you get to know, that you take everything with you. And no matter how hard you try, you can't leave that at the door. You're taking that home. You're thinking about, oh, they told me that. I wonder what's going on at home. Or, oh, wonder what happened at lunch today between those two kids. They were friends yesterday. Now they're not friends. Like,
And we're always trying to figure out how to solve. We're problem solvers, so we're always trying to figure out how to make ourselves better, how to make our lessons better, how to solve problems, like you said, whether it's between students or with parents or just within our own building. We're always trying to better ourselves. So you're right. We're always thinking, always working on something, for sure.
All right. Well, I think that's a great note to end. Is there anything else you want to share with anybody before we sign off today?
No, I just really have loved spending this time and chatting. I think it's important that our society knows that there are teachers who really, really love what they do. And we really love the kids, and we pour our hearts out to them every single day. And their support is really all we need. We can really go far if we just kind of support each other and stay positive. And I'm so excited to get to spend this time with the 73 others of you that are with me. And it's really going to be a fun year. And thanks so much for taking this time to chat with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Listeners, if you like the podcast, subscribe on your favorite podcast player of choice so you don't miss out on future episodes, and please share with your friends. Until next time, excellence in all endeavors.